I'm honestly so surprised that more artists are making these. It's been ridiculously helpful for my practice. It was super fun and also a lot easier than some people would think. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Max, I'm an 18-year-old surrealist artist and I wrote an art book. And I'm going to be telling you all about why you should as well. As I wrote it, I found myself reflecting on pieces that I'd done years ago and seeing patterns in my progression. Seeing how much I've improved in that time has not only massively helped my motivation to continue improving, but it's also renewed my inspiration in rediscovering ideas that I was once really passionate about but left behind. It's not just the process of making it that's useful, but once it's made, you can use it as an in-depth portfolio, a print-on-demand product, and also a helpful handbook to draw on when you're lacking ideas. And in this video, I'm going to convince you that making one of these is integral to your artistic practice. When you're trying to improve yourself as an artist, it's easy to stick on a front-facing path, constantly focused on progress forwards. And especially within the art education setting, it's easy to forget about work you completed just a few months ago. But now you've got that emotional distance from some of those pieces, you can take lessons from them to move your practice forward. For example, in mine, one of the focuses was talking about the meanings and messages behind my work. Now this was really easy for recent stuff that I had a clear conceptual vision for, but a lot of my older stuff I just sort of created with the visual language in mind and hadn't incorporated any kind of allegorical thinking. Now that's fine, you don't have to have every single piece of work be some sort of statement on the meaning of life. But it was a really useful exercise to go through these pieces and to think retrospectively about what maybe I was trying to say. This not only improves your analytical thinking, but deepens your understanding of your own artistic language. For example, eyes were a consistent theme in my earlier work. At the time, I just thought it looked cool, but was I really trying to say something about surveillance, or observing and learning, or looking within? And it's actually really fun to go through your old paintings and decode them like secret messages from your younger self. And the meanings behind your work are something that's deeply personal to you. Sure, you can learn that by studying the work of other artists, but if you want to find your own personal artistic voice, looking for that within your own pieces is invaluable. In terms of the more practical side of your work, you can look for weaknesses in your style or realism or use of color or any of the elements. Not to beat yourself up and make yourself feel bad about your work, but to either register bad artistic habits you've moved on from and feel confident and proud in yourself that you've got better, or to identify things that you're struggling with and maybe have been struggling with for a really long time. And maybe you'll even find things that you feel like you've got worse at, skills that you've forgotten or haven't paid as much attention to. And through this exercise, you can bring them back into a focus. For example, I love the use of vibrant contrasting colors in a lot of my older pieces, and that's inspired me to bring back that same color style, as at the moment, content and realism has been my focus as opposed to colour. And it's overall just a massive confidence booster to look at all the work that you've created and to see how much you've learned and to realise how proud you are of some of the pieces you created years ago. So now we've looked at the benefits it has to your artistic practice, let's talk about some other practical benefits of having one of these books. In December, I actually had an interview to study fine art at Oxford University, and I think if I'd had one of these, I'd have had a much better chance of getting accepted. Not because, oh, it's impressive that I wrote a book, because I'd written down so many details about the concept and process of my work. It makes my pieces so much easier to talk about now. And I remember them asking me about this piece in particular, and knowing in my head what it was about, but finding it difficult to express that in a way other people could understand. Now I've got a whole page about it, and I wasn't able to express any of those ideas to them in the interview. Outside of a professional interview context, it's just useful to have an easy way of sharing your work. If you've got a platform and an audience, and it's a super easy way of sharing your whole body of work in a handheld object. I published mine on Amazon, and I'm going to tell you more about that process later because it was unbelievably easy, way easier than I was expecting. But having a print-on-demand product available could also be a great source of side income. So we've talked about why you should make an art book. If you're still here, that means you want to know how. And writing a whole book might sound kind of daunting, and maybe you don't think you have time for that. I worked on this for maybe 40 minutes a day for 2 months. And if you're a practicing artist, you can build that into your schedule. And if you're not, look at your screen time on your phone. See how much time you're wasting on Instagram or TikTok. And if it's more than 40 minutes, then you have time to be writing one of these. You can do this in 4 very easy steps. The first is to decide what kind of format you want to use. So I'm a fine artist, so I was trying to emulate kind of traditional art books you'd get at a gallery, but you don't have to be a fine artist to do that. If your work's more kind of illustration based, having a showcase of all your character designs, your creature designs, environment designs, and using a similar format, you can still create a really useful tool. However, before I became a fine artist, a lot of my work was very sketchbook based. And if that's you can still create one of these super easily. You can create a book in the same ratio as your sketchbook and pick your favorite pages to showcase. If you want to add writing, you can, but you don't have to. I've read loads of fine art books about really big artists that don't really include that much writing and are mostly just pictures. I just love writing, and I love thinking analytically and exploring artwork. And if you don't, maybe just one with pictures and a little bit of writing would be better for you. Once you've decided what will be the most fun and the most feasible for you to create based on your identity as an artist, it's time for step 2, actually making the body of the book. This is probably the most time consuming, but it's definitely not difficult. I used Microsoft Word, but you can probably use any writing software. And the first thing you need to decide is which artworks are actually going to be featured. If you're a younger artist like me, who's between 17 and 20, you might have a relatively small body of work. It probably contain your entire artistic practice, which is essentially what I did. If you want to go down that route, you want to think back to the first time you created a piece and thought, wow, this is art. I'm actually an artist. The first piece you felt truly proud of, and that when you look back on it, you still have some pride in it. And that's your starting point. And you want to look at every piece you've created since then, and you want to decide, is this good enough to be put in my book? This isn't every piece I've made. There's probably at least 10 that I just didn't include because I didn't think they were relevant, or there was already similar work in there within the same project. You also want to decide how you're going to order this. So once you've got your selection of work, you need to think, do I want to order this chronologically, by project, or by subject matter? I ordered mine chronologically because it was really important for me to have my process and progression really clearly laid out. Think of an order that will flow naturally and make sense for the reader. You also need to decide on the format now. I wanted mine to be a square because it meant that both landscape and portrait pictures could be displayed at a reasonable size. Okay, but what do you actually write? You can write about whatever you want, it's your book. But some conventional ideas are to write about the process and the meanings and messages behind your work. An important feature of what I wrote about was its connection to the Sanctum universe, which is a wider narrative project that I've been working on. Every single piece is connected, every single character has a backstory. In this book, I was explaining some of that. It might be cool to talk about challenges you've overcome, or interesting experimental techniques that you used, or how creating that piece changed your perspective as an artist. Okay, now you've made the body, it's time to think about design elements. The most fun bit is definitely making the cover. So the easiest way to do this is to pick a selection of pieces that you're really proud of, like your best work. And you want to look through those and think which has the best potential graphically for accommodating a title. So the reason I chose this one was because there's a space in the middle that I could run a title through. You want to pick a prominent color from the background of this image and use that as your text color. And what I did to help that stand out was put a white drop shadow behind it. The portal in the background is white, so it looked like the title and the light behind it was emanating from the portal. I used Microsoft Word to kind of brainstorm ideas because it's easy to move text around and import images. But then to create the actual file, I used Ibis Paint. It's a free app you can get on your phone. The effects you can create behind it are much more customizable. The back cover was very simple. I just took a sort of mid-tone blue from the background of the painting and then used the same dark blue from the font for the little accents. One of the more difficult bits actually was writing the blurb. I wrote it in third person as if someone else had written it about me, just to make it seem like it was someone else's opinion, which made it a little bit more valid sounding. I just clearly talked about the content of the work, what mediums I mostly use in it, how many pictures. I talked about the themes that I explore. I even mentioned similar artists that I'm inspired by, and also key adjectives that kind of summarize my work, like cosmic and ethereal. For the more decorative pages, my inside cover was very simple. I also had a spread of all of my best pieces, really showcasing images I'm much more proud of, reassure them that the slightly lacking style of my younger self wouldn't be consistent throughout the book. And for my chapter illustrations, I actually hand drew this kind of circular geometric background, kind of reflects the kind of traditional style of my work. I originally had a much more difficult to read font because I thought it looked fancy, but then when I had to decrease the size of the text due to formatting problems later on, I actually realized it wasn't readable at all, so I had to change it to a clearer font instead. Some other things that I didn't include but you might want to is your reviews or opinions that you could put on the blurb. If your book's a little bit thicker than mine, you could also include a design along the spine. So now you've made the body of your book, it's time to publish it and make it into a physical object that somebody could look through. It is unbelievably easy to publish something on Amazon. I thought it would be doable, but I thought it would still be pretty complicated. It's so self-explanatory. I'm just going to give you some helpful advice to maximize your reach on specific parts of the application process. In terms of making the cover, I already had my design, I just needed to import it into a format that Amazon could understand and print correctly. So one super helpful thing that they do is they provide you with a template that has the exact ratio you need for your specific book. So once you upload your manuscript, it'll calculate how thick this part's going to be, and it'll give you a template that you can use. All I did was import it to Ibis Paint, drop in the cover image that I'd already created in a square format, and then on the other side, I created the back cover super simply. I used the template to make sure all the elements were lined up. One thing I did wrong was made the canvas way too big. I thought, okay, I need it to be massive so that it can be super good resolution. But then when I went to upload it, because it was so big, it ended up cropping most of it and being a super zoomed in version. All I had to do to fix that was just to go in and make it from massive to just sort of medium. Also need to turn it into a PDF, which you can't export a PDF straight from Ibis Paint. All I did was looked up free PDF converter, and I found one on Adobe that was completely free. Choosing good keywords. Now this is super important for your reach. If you're trying to do this as a way of making income, getting Amazon to push your book onto the right people who are going to be interested in it and want to buy it is integral to the process. So my work is very fantasy based, it's very surreal. I used keywords like surreal art book, fantasy art book, painting art book, because people aren't gonna rock up to Amazon and look up Sanctum of the Unsound, because they don't know what that is yet. Once it was done, I got this proof copy made just to give it a final check that everything was good, and it is. So now it's getting published and people are going to be able to buy it and have like a little gallery of my work in their own homes. And even if I don't sell that many, process of making this was super helpful. I learned so much about my practice. I know that I'm going to be able to improve my work going forward because of this experience. If you're a fellow very small business owner like me, with an interest in creating gorgeous art products for your customers, make sure you come next week because I'm going to be giving an in-depth tutorial on how to create gorgeous sticker designs and also how to package them, how to print them yourself, all for a very low cost. Perfect for small business owners who don't have the means to make big risks on buying products in. Thank you so much for watching the video, have an amazing day, and I hope to see you very soon.